Welcome to the AmeriCanaries Podcast number 9. Our special guest for this podcast is the father of the under-23 captain, Jonathan Tomkinson, who was on the bench for Saturday's game against Manchester United and was mentioned by Arlo White several times. So David Tomkinson is Jonathan's dad, and joining us also is the founder of AmeriCanaries, Mark Foster. And Mark is here on audio. His video was like max headroom or something.
Yeah, I got a face for radio here. I pulled up the YouTube feed, and boy, I look really good here. Wow.
So if anyone wants to look on YouTube, Mark
I'm having technical difficulties. So
weird ass. It looks like a weird test pattern that is on LSD or something.
You know what? I'm not gonna say it looks like scrambled cable, and I'll just leave it at that.
I like the max headroom one actually.
Like the max
Yeah.
I look like scrambled cable.
The max headroom. So as I mentioned, this is number 9 of our first season. Hopefully we'll have more seasons of the podcast. So for those of you who have listened before, and I certainly applaud you if you put in the full 2 hours to listen to the excellent conversation that we had with David's wife, Jackie, who's just a delightful person and incredibly knowledgeable and just a joy to talk to. I don't think this is going to go 2 hours. We had a special Thanksgiving episode. I don't think I can last 2 hours myself. So we'll talk about a variety of things. Of course, having David here, very interested to hear the whole process of how Jonathan was selected to the team, how he told David and Jackie about it, and whatever experiences Jonathan has relayed to him. And hopefully you'll be listening to this prior to the match against Aston Villa, where we think Jonathan will also be named to the team based on the fact that he did not play with the under-23s and based on the fact that there's a lot of injuries on Norwich's back line. So we're anticipating that he'll be announced once again. I don't think Arlo White will be doing the game. The match this time, I have no idea who it will be, but it was very nice for Arlo. So before I get into the video, so David, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you became a fan? And then David has a slight confession in that. It's fine. We're not going to kick him off.
Confession was the word I was going to use too.
And like favorite match he's attended, favorite players, anything else, and then there's some video. Well, I'll play the audio of the video, and we'll get his reaction to what Arlo said.
Yeah, so I am a fairly recent acquisition as a Norwich fan. I grew up in East Anglia, in a little village called Rattlesden, which is quite close to Stowmarket in Suffolk. And of course, my nearest team was a blue and white team. And so I did the right thing and followed my local team for many years. Was never really into the East Anglian rivalry kind of side of it. But ultimately, the best opportunities for Jonathan ended up being in Norwich. And of course, as soon as that opened up, there was only one team to support. So I can give you all of how he ended up at Norwich if you'd like to hear that story. And again, it involves Ipswich, interestingly. But it's kind of funny how those two teams are interwoven unavoidably.
Well, that'll be good because your wife mentioned a little bit about that, but sure I'd like to hear.
Well, it was kind of
your perspective, and
it was kind of accidental. We Jonathan was going to play in a tournament in Ireland one summer with an FC Dallas team, and we were in Suffolk, just a week or two ahead of going over to Ireland in the summer. And so he wanted to train. So we went to Ipswich Town and also to another little local club called Needham Market. And he just did some training at Needham Market. We just walked through the door of the academy at Ipswich and said, is there anyone he can train with? And he ended up getting a trial. So through the trial, they really liked him. They asked him to come back after the tournament. And the main contact that we met there was their head of recruitment, which was Steve McGavin. Subsequently, Steve McGavin moved to Norwich. And so we kind of had things still going along a little bit with Ipswich, but they were kind of lukewarm. Jonathan needed to work on some things in his game. And so he did that for probably, 18 months back in Texas. And in that time, I thought, let me talk to Steve, see what he thinks. And Steve was like, yeah, bring him over to Norwich. We want to see him. He went over, trained really, really well, played against Tottenham under 16s. I thought, Tottenham, they could be pretty good. Well, Norwich won 3-0. Jonathan played really, really well. They had a lot of centre backs at the time. You had Andrew Omabamidele already in there. They had plenty, but they saw something in Jonathan, and so that was it. He was off to become a Canary.
Hey, your wife said that there was like 6 or 7 center backs, and
yeah, Steve told me they had a lot of center backs. I remember when he first joined, when he first started at Norwich, there was a couple of center backs that didn't sort of stick around for very long because he came in and, they brought him in for a reason, right? So it's tough. That's football. But yeah, they got to go with what the best they can get, I guess, right? So he was raw though. He was really a raw player coming from Texas. He's got all the athletic attributes. He's 6'3". He's fast. But he had things to learn positionally, reading the danger behind, things like that he had, a lot of work to do. And I think that's probably why they haven't rushed to put him out on loan or something, because they recognized in Norwich's academy it was better to keep him in the 23s a bit longer. So I think they're doing just an amazing job in the academy, as far as I can see. Teaching them how to play football. Once you get out on loan, there's not so much time to learn, to be coached. So, it's like every day in the under 23s is an opportunity to learn and get proper, really good coaching.
What's your impression of the facilities? Because I know they put a lot of money into building the facilities.
When we first went, there was porta cabins everywhere. It was a building site with porta cabins and temporary stuff all over the place, but very quickly became, a really top-notch facility. The pitches are brilliant. You've got a nice big indoor facility. The buildings are fantastic now. There's some amazing places over there. Tottenham has a fantastic training ground. I haven't been to Leicester, but that's supposed to be amazing. But Norwich has got some really top-notch facilities. It's definitely got to help with attracting players. It's definitely helping. They used to play on a sloping, muddy pitch, is what I'm told. It's going to help.
It has to, because they're building the club. They're not building the first team.
Yeah, I mean, it's very easy with a football club to just pour all your money into the players' pockets, right? And you're left with nothing. So, you've got to build the infrastructure of your club as well. there's a delicate balance, right? I mean, we all want a team that wins,
Right.
And that takes money. But if you've got nothing to show for it at the end of the day, well, what was the point of being in the Premier League if you haven't got Premier League facilities?
Right. True. So it's very similar. I've said this before, and I've said this on. Don't know if I've said this on the fan zone, the Premier League fan zone, but it's similar to what's happening to the Baltimore Orioles, which is a team that I'm a fan of and season ticket holder for. The Orioles spent a lot of money making sure that the major league team was successful from, let's say, 2012 to middle of 2017. They were in the playoffs in 12, 14, and 16. And then they says, well, this team, we put a lot of money into, this team isn't good. Let's, get rid of everybody. They realized their minor league system wasn't very good. Their facilities needed to be improved, and they didn't have anything really going on with international. So they now have vastly improved everything that's going on, build up the international. They have more teams. They have a facility. So it's a similar approach where they realize you just can't put all your money into the first team or the major league team. You need to build the club as a whole.
Yeah.
So
No, I mean, I being based in America, I mean, I'd like to see Norwich's ladies team actually, some money put into that, and I think there is money going into that, and I'd like to see them become, an important ladies team in England, because you see it here. Football's huge for girls in America,
right?
And it's growing and growing in Europe. So, I'd like Norwich to be at the forefront of that. And it doesn't take that much investment at the moment, actually, on the ladies' side.
Well, hopefully that we sponsor 4 of the Norwich City women's players.
I did not know that.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
2 of them are basically playing most of the matches. Megan Todd and Anna Larkins play, and was it Kate Parsons plays some, and then there's a reserve striker who really hasn't played a lot. So we sponsor 4 women. We sponsor the most players of any of the sponsors.
Yeah, very good.
So like the Canaries Trust. So we're hopefully going to do more. But my
wife was a player. She didn't start till probably almost 30 years old, but she played soccer, football. So it's near and dear to our family, both for men and women.
Yeah, well, in the U.S., it was good old the passage of Title IX, where the colleges needed to provide roughly equal facilities. And then it's like, oh, wow, my girl can get a scholarship playing this. So that helped on the youth side. And then it helped, where they were opening up the teams and making them co-ed or having teams specifically for girls. I mean, where I live in Columbia, Maryland, soccer's massive. There's 2 very large organizations that have all the youth teams that play here, and you see it all the time. Virtually every weekend there's something going on, and on any average Saturday, if you're at a shopping mall or something, you're going to see the kids in their soccer attire, walking with their parents, or whatever. And then also hosts lots of tournaments, holiday tournaments. I've been somewhere where there's just entire teams that are out eating lunch in between their tournaments. So it's a very, very big thing here. It's very well supported.
That was a decision we had to kind of make. I would say when Jonathan was about 16, probably early, when he was early 16 years old or so, we had to decide if it was going to be college or if it was pursuing the professional path. And we'd, for a long time, it'd kind of been out there as a dream for him. He was in FC Dallas's academy. That didn't work out for him. They didn't really seem to pay him proper attention. I mean, he was playing on their right wing, just because he's fast, maybe. I don't know. But so they didn't really seem to understand him as a player. But he wanted to be a professional. But for me and Jackie, it was too early to be really thinking about that. But by the time he was getting to 15, 16, that's when he started to have trials. He had a trial with West Brom. He had trials with Ipswich. It was starting to get real. So we had to decide, is it going to be professional track or is it going to be college track? And, that's very difficult for American players because in my mind, the college track is you pretty much kissing goodbye to professional. A few make it from college to professional, but not many at all. And, he was getting scholarship offers, you name it. Like he's got former teammates from Solar, who, he spent most of his youth soccer career with here. He's got former teammates playing at Yale, playing at Princeton, playing at Notre Dame. It can get you a very nice college degree, right? And he gave all that up on the expectation that he's going to make it at Norwich. So that's a pretty tough decision at 16,
Well, speaking of college, and I'll brag a little bit as a Maryland graduate, there's plenty of Maryland kids that played at Maryland that are professionals.
Yeah.
The top one is Zach Steffen, the backup goalie at Man City.
Yeah.
He went to Maryland, and there's quite a few that have played. Taylor Twellman, who does lots of the broadcast, he was at Maryland.
Okay.
There's trying. I can't come up with, but there's plenty. There's several on the American team, the United States men's team, that went to Maryland. So and Sasho is one. The coach has won three national championships since he's been there. So, but you're right. Going through college is not necessarily a guaranteed, way to make it into the pros. But there's plenty of guys that came through. So the Maryland's coach was actually part of a alumni event. I think it was Atlanta alumni, but part of the alumni, everything's virtual now. It was kind of interesting. So he was on as a guest for the Atlanta alumni, and I got to ask him a question about Zach. I says, okay, when Zach came to Maryland, did you think he was good enough to play in Europe, in the European club circuit? And he says, yes. Says, we specifically toured England during Zach's, I think, sophomore or junior year to play in the summer in the preseason against, and he mentioned, the teams. I think it was 2 Premier League teams and 1 championship team, to play against them, to give him exposure, because we knew at Maryland that he had the potential to play there, and that was Zach's goal, to play there. So they intentionally went there knowing what was going on. Yeah. So that's a prime example of somebody, who was at the very, very top level. And there's quite a few that play in MLS. I think Zach might be the only one playing in Europe. I'd have to look. But you're right. It has to be, a top soccer program with a coach that knows what the heck's. And I think on the women's side, it's like North Carolina. North Carolina is your gold standard.
I think it also, I would think it also probably helps in the goalkeeper position that, goalkeepers tend to be a little older. I think centre backs tend to be a little bit older before they quite hit their peak. So the college is not at such a crucial time. But if you're a striker or a winger, that they tend to kind of they can peak very early. And if you're in college, you're missing out on those key years. I can tell you how much Jonathan has learned from the age of like 17 to 19 at Norwich. College is great, but I don't think it's going to be the same as a Premier League academy.
No, I agree. I mean, if Jonathan or whoever thinks, you know what, my aspiration is to play, you know, in the top 5 European, you know, leagues, whatever. Going to college in the United States might not be your best option.
But if you don't make it, it was your best option. So it's a really tough decision.
Right.
It's like really tough. You know, when you got, like I said, he has teammates who are at Yale and Princeton. Like, you're going to turn down that education possibility, and you might be able to, you know, squeeze out a professional career after it as well. It's kind of tempting, right?
But there's some. Actually, the current president of the University of Maryland, his son plays for DC United, a guy named Donovan Pines. I think he played for the U.S. team like a couple of times, 6'7". Actually, and the Daryl Pines, I actually know because he was the engineering dean at Maryland. They don't live far away from me. They're like 10 minutes away, but where they live. So that's one of those where it's the MLS will draft regional. They sort of have rights to kids in the area. So that was one of those. He knew what was going on. And I talked to his dad before he became president. I haven't talked to him since because of COVID or whatever. And I says, okay, well, clearly you as a president, you know, you and Al, you know, this is before he became president, you know, you as the engineering dean. And I know he was, you know, going pro. It's like, so I know the answer to this question, but I'm sure it's, you're going to get your degree, right, Jonathan? Yes. You know, that of course was part of it. But but I agree with you. The college route doesn't necessarily get you to the top European leagues. It gets you to MLS if it's with the right team. But that's
and you know, a football career is not very long. Time is ticking. You know, you only need 1 or 2 injuries, and suddenly your career is looking really short. You know.
You know, let's say when someone goes playing for, I think Aguero was supposedly retiring tomorrow.
Yeah, heart condition, right?
Oh, that's what's going on.
Yeah.
I know he really didn't play. I just saw something show up on my phone when I was out a little while ago. This says Aguero is retiring tomorrow. I didn't know why he hadn't played.
Yeah, I believe they picked up a heart condition with him, and I don't know if you saw in the game on Saturday, Victor Lindelof was having some problems with his breathing, and heart rate went through the roof, and that's why he came off against Norwich.
I knew he came off, but I wasn't sure what was going on there.
They said he was having some problem with his breathing, and his heart rate went through the roof. And they don't really know what happened, but they think he's okay. But, you know, I'm sure there'll be more tests.
Was he wearing one of those?
They don't wear heart rate monitors. They wear the GPSs. But he could tell, like, his heart was just racing. Right? So.
Yeah, I didn't know if it was on the sidelines, like, hey, this isn't good. Yeah, let's pull him off. I didn't, because I know sometimes you see them take the shirt off when they're wearing the. What do you call it?
It looks like a sports bra.
Right. Yeah. It looks like a sports bra, but it's not. It's the half top with the sensors. I don't know what it's called.
Yeah, the GPS is generally between the shoulder blades. They do ones on the heel now as well. But yeah, so they have every metric of every blade of grass that you crossed and how fast you did it. And
yeah, I've always wondered how they did. It's like, how are they tracking these movements so fast?
Yeah.
You know, like 15 years ago, I was like, oh, I don't know. He ran really far, and this is sort of where he was.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting, though, because we always knew that Jonathan was fast, and now we know exactly how fast. Like, and, you know, where you sort of sit in the in kind of pecking order of speed. Like, he's pretty quick, but, you know, I can't get the name right, but Plaweta, the Polish guy.
Yeah.
He is definitely rapid.
Yeah.
So I like that you get actually, you know, it gets through some of the subjectivity to real objectivity. Some of the sports science stuff that they've got these days.
Yeah. Well, in the club, I think Plaheta Solis and Rashica are possibly the fastest.
I think Plaheta is I've heard numbers. He is really, really fast. I think fastest by far at Norwich, probably.
Interesting.
Yeah. So.
Didn't know that. So that's how you became a fan through Jonathan. So have you attended any matches at Terra?
Yeah. So we've been to the Leeds game this season, and Wolves as well. I think those are the two games we've been to this season. I managed to see Jonathan in pre-season at they played Kings Lynn,
So what the yeah, right.
Gillingham at Carrow Road. I wasn't able to go to Newcastle. He was at Newcastle with pre-season as well. But yeah, it's fun. And the people were telling me the atmosphere was not great for the Leeds game. I think Daniel Farke was still the manager at the time, and then things were not obviously things were not going great, right? But I thought the atmosphere was pretty good. I mean, the ground is packed out. But the Wolves game for sure. There was a really good atmosphere. Again, packed ground. The crowd are really getting behind the team.
Got a point out of that, right?
Yeah, that was good. So, I love what I'm seeing from the team right now. I love Daniel Farke. I thought he was a great manager, but you could just see they were lacking a little bit of fight. I think Dean Smith has come in and he's just got them fighting and working for each other, and Norwich they're gonna have to outwork the other team, right? And I thought they did on Saturday.
They did.
Really, people said Man U had a bad game. As far as I'm concerned in football, you only have as good a game as your opponent allows you to have. And Norwich did not allow Manchester United to have a good game.
I mean, they were outworking them. They were hustling. Yeah. They were getting to the balls much quicker. They were aggressive. I mean, this was, honestly, watching it, I'm like, you know what? They should get at least a point out of this. I figured, they might be able to, just get a 0-0 draw or something out of this. And,
well, I mean, they had plenty of chances. They had more chances than Man U, right? Good ones. So, it looked really promising to me. Things were good at Wolves, and things are looking better and better.
Even though Tottenham handed it to them.
But still, they played fine in that Tottenham game. It wasn't really, the scoreline maybe wasn't reflective of the game.
True. I mean, Moore had a real nice shot, and Son is very hard to mark.
Yeah,
it's tough to stop that. Then the third one was just an unlucky bounce.
Yeah. So I mean, it's like, I think, was it Dean Smith said, we don't want to be gallant losers or something, right? I mean, you don't.
Right.
No one wants that, but it's like, if you're putting up the performances, presumably the points will come, right? So.
True. Right. I mean, I was hopeful. Tomorrow against Villa, let's hope, that they actually, get 3 points. Away to West Ham, that might be tough.
Well, West Ham's got their own problems. They're short on defenders right now, and they're not. West Ham, if we'd have run into them, a month ago, I'd have said the same thing. But did they beat Burnley yesterday? I don't think they did, right?
Yeah. Who's the West Ham striker that's now at Ajax? He left. There's somebody who's tearing up the.
Is that Haller?
Who?
Haller?
Yeah, Haller. Right. Yeah. Haller's tearing up the Champions League. I was like, oh wow, great! He's not at West Ham. Fantastic. I think he. Yeah. In the not the knockout round, the first round, whatever. I think he had either the most goals or the second most goals. And so I'm sort of glad he wasn't there, because I remember when Norwich played him a couple of years ago, he ate him up.
Yeah, and I think he nobbled Zimmerman, right? I think Zimmerman's ankle's been the same since.
Blame him.
Yeah.
All right, so let me play the video here, because I have it queued up, and I want to. So, for those of you, during the match on Saturday, Arlo was calling the game, and Jonathan was mentioned twice, and this is the first time that Jonathan was mentioned, and then the second time is about 10 minutes later, because I have it down at almost the same, almost exactly 10 minutes later when Grant Hanley went down. So I'm going to, hopefully you can, I have the volume cranked here, and to make sure you can hear it. So here we go.
Trying to win possession back for Manchester United, but concedes the foul. And on the note of from the United States, on the bench today for Norwich City, Jonathan Tomkinson, 19 years of age, born and raised in Texas, a ball-playing centre-back. Good to see more and more young US players coming over to Europe first and foremost, and then finding opportunity in the Premier League. Quality.
So, what did you think of when you heard that?
We wondered if there would be something, because there's not that many Americans in the Premier League, and so we did wonder if the NBC, they have their own coverage, if they would have picked up on the fact that he's an American. So we were kind of like, maybe might get a mention.
Well, you would certainly hope that, especially playing to this market, that they got enough people to say, hey, let's look at this roster, look at this squad. Is there anything about it that we need to note? I mean, you can't have everybody like Tony Romo and basically walk into the stadium and say, well, who's playing today? Not even know what teams, because that's what it seems like Romo does for football. You got to do your research and know something about these squads, for goodness sakes.
Right.
Especially if you can tie it back, because, it's Man U. Yeah, it's the late game, but, let's have a reason to watch this game against this last place team. Oh, wait, it's got another American on it? Cool. I mean, let's bring it up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Arlo does his homework really well. He posts sometimes pictures of the sheets that he has, where he fills in the formation. He has these sort of rectangular pieces of paper that he puts down, like here's first half, second half. So I'm sure he's like, oh, he's on the bench. Let's have something. I want to make sure I mention this to the U.S. audience.
Yeah. No, so, our phones started blowing up.
Good. Good.
Oh my God! I just heard them mention Jonathan on this, on NBC. So it was a fun moment.
Yes, I was pretty happy.
So when did you find out he was getting called up?
So we just got up on Friday morning, just started work. We both work from home, and we're just working away, and suddenly, we have a little family group chat, and suddenly in the family group chat, this message pops up from Jonathan that I'm on the bench tomorrow, and Jackie used an acronym. I think it's STFU.
Yeah, that's kind of what I figured she was going to say.
No, I don't think I know what that means, but
I do.
We do.
We do.
Yeah, and I think mine, I was like something equally inappropriate, but so
we can tell you the S stands for
Friday
shut.
Morning surprise.
Yeah.
I'm pretty good with the vernacular here. With the kids in the household. My son being a journalism, graduate and very proficient with the social media for his job. If I have a question, I'm like, well, what does that mean? And he'll look at me, come on, you don't know that?
Yeah. So
I'm still chuckling at it because knowing you two like I do, that's totally Jackie with that response. So
oh yeah. Yeah.
Here you go.
The difficult bit was
put up,
keeping that quiet. We don't want to be leaking the team information.
Yeah.
right.
But that's great. Yeah. So, Arlo put something and it says like, hey, said Arlo, us AmeriCanaries, and I put the Twitter handle, are thrilled not only that Sargent is starting, but that Jonathan Tomkinson is in the squad. We're planning on having Jonathan's dad join us for our podcast this week. We already had his awesome mom, Jackie, on. Cheers. And then he liked that. So I did this at 12:20. Yeah, this is before it started, 12:20. Okay, there's your time.
Yep.
Yeah. I was probably like one of the last Americans to know that he was on the squad because I was out in the boonies coaching a tournament. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, I saw it when Jeff posted it in our group chat. He posted. I was like, really? I'm like, okay, cool. Because I forgot. I went to grocery shopping. I was up early. We needed to do grocery shopping. And by the time I got back, I was like, all right, 12:15. Let's see what's going on. I was like, what? I didn't check because lots of times, an hour beforehand, I'm like, oh, here's a squad. Let's see what it is, and then refresh and see. But this time I didn't. I was like, oh my God, really?
Yeah. It's the kind of thing where you can feel a million miles away from the first team, right? But you forget that Jonathan played for a year with Andrew Omobamidele, right? And he's played with Todd Cantwell, Stiepermann, Dermich, Tim Close, all in the 23s. He's done the preseason stuff. He's learned like the support that they get. Tim Close helped him a lot. Zimmerman helped him a lot in preseason. Dermich helped him a lot when he was playing with the 23s, giving him kind of the striker's perspective of defending. So, he's played against Rafinha for Leeds in 23s football. So, it's easy to feel you're kind of like out in this 23s wilderness, but really you're not far from the first team at all.
That's really good information to know.
Yeah. So, it's football things kind of don't happen linearly. For a while you might be feeling like you're just kind of on a plateau, and then suddenly it all takes off. So that's right now for Jonathan. It's just suddenly all taken off again, right?
Leaps and bounds.
Yeah. So the next one, let's see how is when he actually showed up on TV.
Yeah, he was running down the touchline.
Yeah, showed up on TV. Hold on, I have that queued up. So let me play that. So they're looking at it. Yeah, when I saw Hanlam says that's not good, man. He's got a shoulder issue. That's not good.
Yeah,
so,
my blood pressure went through the roof when I saw Grant Hanley go down.
All right, so let's. I have it. I got the volume cranked up here. So let's. I'll play this here. Yeah.
Remember, Jonathan Tomkinson, the centre-back, is on the bench from Texas. Big moment this will be for him. Sure, he's looking on. A mixture of nerves and excitement. There he is. Of course, speaking to our American friend.
There you go. So I was like, whoa. So he mentioned him again. And then there he is.
And there he is.
So what was your reaction other than, probably like, ah!
My mind started racing, and like I say, my blood pressure was kind of through the roof about that time, thinking, like, okay, he's not going to come on, is he? So, I think you got to be careful with young players. You don't want to throw them in the deep end too soon. It would have been nice to see him come on, but they got to nurture them as well. So I think, for a moment there, I really thought, whoa, this could be happening, right? Like, we might have to go on there and mark Ronaldo.
Yes, I was thinking exactly where I was going. Think about who he would have been marking, considering who landed on top of Hanley in the first place. Put him out.
Yeah.
And he was warming up. He just had to be warming up, on the sidelines at that exact same time. It was kind of interesting. And Arlo's like, oh, there he is.
Yep. But he's got to get ready for those situations. The club's doing their best to prepare him for when that time comes.
So what my guess is that his first start might be when they play Charlton in the FA Cup.
Yeah, who knows? It just depends what they see. Depends if players get injured, if they need a rest, or the games are going to come thick and fast. Now, I mean, look, we just played on Saturday, and there's already one on Tuesday.
Right.
And this time of year, the games just come thick and fast.
That's the fixtures and stuff.
Well, and we've still got COVID that we're dealing with.
Oh, unfortunately, yeah.
I mean,
COVID's hitting the Premier League. It's hitting. What was it? It's
NFL. I think I heard it's got 23 more cases.
Yeah, the NFL, NHL, a little bit of the NBA. I think baseball right now, obviously.
Yeah. So he's just got to be ready to grab that opportunity when it comes, and that's what he's been working towards for a long time. So I think he's got better at grabbing those opportunities. I think he's got better at dealing with situations. It's obviously normal to have a little bit of nerves on new experiences, but he's used to being in front of the crowd now. He's used to dealing. If football becomes increasingly mental, right? How you deal with things mentally, and so I think he's mentally strong and takes things in his stride. I know with the FA Youth Cup, some of the players had quite a lot of nerves back when he was in the under-18s, and he kind of said, look, you got to pull yourselves together because this is what we do, right? These are the occasions we're supposed to enjoy, not be a bag of nerves just because there's a crowd and we're in Carrow Road. So.
And that's probably why one of the reasons he became the captain.
Yeah, he's got that. He just has that about him, I think.
Does he get any more? Does he get additional money being the captain?
No. They get win bonuses and stuff, but no.
Didn't know if there was like, oh, you're captain. Here's an extra shilling in your pay. I had no idea. Is he paid differently if he's on the Premier League squad? Does he get a different?
No, you have a contract with the club, and that contract doesn't change based on which team you're playing for within the club. There are things like you get like a appearance bonus. So typically contracts will have things written into them like, if you make your debut for the first team, there might be like a bonus associated with that. If you make your national team debut, you might have a bonus associated with it in your contract. There's all little things like that. And then, of course, like I said, they get a win bonus as well. So everything's sort of, contracts are structured to provide obviously incentives to win games and to progress your career, really. So the more appearances you make for either Norwich or somebody else's first team, even on loan, is beneficial from a contract perspective.
Okay, so when they sign a contract, they sign it with the Norwich City Football Club. They're not signing a contract. They're not signing a first team contract, or they're not signing an under 23 contract. Okay, because the NBA has got the G League, and some people sign dual contracts where they can be called up and not have to have their contract bought by the team, and then they get a different amount of money, per game.
Yeah, I think the three other main leagues, obviously not with the NFL, but the three with minor league systems all have what are called two-way contracts, and so you get paid differently on a per diem basis, per day basis, depending on whose roster you're with. So if you get called up to the parent club, you're getting a higher rate of pay for that period of time than when you're down at the minor league level.
Yeah. No, I mean, you can have situations where you have a kid who's just tearing it up in the first team, and they're kind of on a youth player contract. So, but then that's, you sign your contract and you get on with it, right? So,
yeah, that's when you'll see. And Max Aarons has signed a new contract. Would that be a reason why? Like it's a youth player, and all of a sudden he's doing really well? Yeah, let's pay him first team wages or something.
Let's make sure we hold on to his rights for a few more years.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
This is true. So what else would you guys like to discuss? We're already at 47 minutes here, and I don't want to keep David for unless he really wants to break his wife's record or something.
We're quite a competitive family.
Well, that was a Thanksgiving special. I asked specific. I had Thanksgiving themed questions.
Yep.
That were asked.
I think for me, it's been an interesting journey with Jonathan, and it's like I think I was saying earlier, that I felt like FC Dallas didn't really understand him as a player. He was with them at like under 13 academy. He had been in some of their youth, not their academy, but their youth teams for a couple of years. And, I think it felt to me, like I say, they did not really pay enough attention to the players they had. They kind of had some players they'd identified as future stars, and they weren't really paying attention to the rest of the team. And I think that's the difference in England. The academies in England are more mature, and they understand that players develop in different ways. We got to know Luchi Gonzalez, who was FC Dallas manager or coach, up until recently, and he kind of said he couldn't understand why they let Jonathan go. He didn't know what happened there, and why they ended up letting him go, because he really wanted to get him back at, I guess, at about age 15 or 16, they wanted to get him back. But what I feel like they kind of missed out on is we knew he was going to be 6'3". No one ever asked us anything about, they didn't look at Jackie and go like, wow, she's 5'11". They didn't ask us if we'd played any sports. Jackie played basketball at North Texas. We ran cross country. I grew up playing. I played football for my middle school and stuff. I was didn't do enough football to be anything relevant. But I actually played field hockey for my university. I played field hockey for Maidenhead in the UK.
Which university did you go to? I saw, but for
I went to the University of Surrey, which is in Guildford, just to the southwest of London. It's kind of a sciencey university.
Mm-hmm.
And I run marathon, used to do triathlons, bike race. I was a swimmer growing up. We're an athletic family, and they didn't really pick up on that, and they didn't pick up on the fact that he's going to be big and fast. And
that's
to me,
really, really interesting, because it seems like the size of athletes is largely predicated on the mom.
Yeah.
If his mom is 5'11", it's going to be a big dude.
Yeah, and all the men in her family, shortest one's 6'4". Right?
Yes.
So my dad was 6'1", 6'2" in
Mm-hmm.
his prime. So, if you do a little bit of research, you can kind of see, well, maybe we don't want to stick this guy on the wing. He was always a central midfielder.
Mm-hmm.
He was like a 6, on all the other teams he'd been on. So, that was disappointing. But things worked out in the end, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, David, it sounds like, because knowing what I do know about FC Dallas's program, I mean, they've got a pretty good program over there. There's been a lot of talent that's come through. I mean, is it just a matter of you're going to have some kids that slip through the cracks?
Yeah.
I mean,
for sure.
To overly simplify it, I mean, you're going to have that happen. You look at any professional program that's got all these guys that they're looking at, and every now and then somebody's going to slip through and land somewhere else and do something big, and you think to yourself, well, what happened on that?
Yeah, they've had obviously a lot of hits, and they have a lot of talent coming to them. I'm not trying to knock FC Dallas. It just
Sure.
You just see the level of professionalism at the UK academies is just off the charts, right? I mean, and so it was just a dream to get into that. I mean, if you the work that Norwich are doing, I can't speak highly enough, right? The coaches that Jonathan's had there, he's been with Alan Nielsen in the under 23s and the under 18s. He's just a great guy, done a phenomenal job. With David Wright in the under 23s, with Steve Weaver in the under 18s and 23s. They've taught him so much, you wouldn't believe. And then all the support of all the staff there, they have amazing player care. You got to remember, he moved over there. Now, we've got family that are, an hour or two away, but he moved over there age 17 with, just on his own. They put him in digs with a really great host family and a few other players. Clive, who does the player care, just took amazing care of him and all the players. And, it's just an incredible setup that they have. You feel really comfortable putting your son into that situation.
That's a great statement.
Yeah.
A question for you. Okay, so now he's, on the working up to the fringes of the first team. Do you think that the next step is for him maybe to go on loan for a year?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a classic, situation for the 19-year-old at Norwich, right? Is it going to be into the first team and do Max Aarons type stuff, or is it going to be more of a Ben Godfrey go out on loan? Both of those were successful.
Right.
But there's been plenty of who are not, right? I mean, it's a reality that not everyone makes it, but there's two paths that you're looking to follow, right? I don't know what she'll be. I mean, I think we were kind of thinking there would be a loan coming up before too long. But there's also the first team, the straight into the first team possibility. So we just have to see what happens in these coming weeks and months. I think he's probably getting to that time where 23's football has been great for him, but now he needs to look for a little bit more. So, yeah, for him, he does want to be playing. He wants to be playing games that count.
Right.
He'd like to be doing them at Norwich, but he also understands that he might have to go to, I don't know which league to get that, with the end goal of then coming back to Norwich and slipping into the first team. So
yeah, I would tend to think if they would put him on loan, they want to have him a situation where he's one of the first choice. He's.
That's the really tricky part about a loan. I mean, there's no guarantees, right?
Right. But I think they were like, all right, who really needs, a young, promising center back, and what we would like to guarantee that he's basically going to be in a team sheet all the time. So we're sending him there to help you guys play and help his development, because you need something. This is a good guy. We want him to play all the time, to help you out. So I don't know who they really have good working relationships with, whether it's Championship, whether it's League One, I really don't know, but that seems like it's a viable possibility that he would go that route, and then come back and be part of the first team setup all the time.
Yeah, it's a tricky one because it's like you said, you don't want to go. I mean, if you go somewhere and you don't play, it's not a complete waste of time. You are in that first team environment for the first time where the manager's job is on the line. If the team doesn't perform, the relegation is going to be calling, right? So you're learning a lot of useful lessons, even if you aren't getting picked for the match day team. But you really want to go and play, and so then it becomes like, what level do you need to go to get that? And there's no guarantees, and so it's a tricky one. You've got to have a team that needs you, right?
Correct. Right. You need
every team needs a centre back right now, or a 19-year-old centre back.
I'm sure there's plenty out there. I'm sure they can figure it out. Was it Neil Adams is the one who's in charge of the
well, actually, now it's so Neil is now, I guess he's kind of sort of still over that. Like, he's now assistant to Stuart Webber. But they've got someone new, as Andy Hughes, who used to play for Norwich.
I was going to say, yeah, he's a former.
Yeah. So he's now running that whole loan program.
Okay. So. Speaking of loan, Mark doesn't know this, but I was on the fan zone again last Wednesday. He's like, "Come on, Ken." And the first it was Ian Irving was the host, and then it was a guy. I had to look him up. It was a Torre. So I had to look up his name. He was from Norway and played striker in the Premier League for a while, and he's
Tor Andre Flo.
Huh?
Tor Andre Flo.
Yes, that's him.
Yeah.
So he was in the studio, and then while I was talking and I did the research on him, I didn't pick up the fact that he's managing Chelsea's loan players.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So they mentioned, because I mentioned that, hey, maybe Norwich can pull some guys off of loan. It says that Dermich is tearing it up in Croatia.
Yeah.
And, possibly bring back Onel Hernandez as someone who's speedy. And Ian goes, well, now that you mention it, Ken, Torre, manages the loan players, because Billy Gilmore is on loan there. We talked about him. So I ask, because we've had the discussion ourselves, is Gilmore better suited as a midfielder, or would he be better as your number 10 player, the
Hmm.
West Houlihan role or whatever. And Torrey said midfielder. He basically says, I think he's better as a midfielder. And I says, well, thank you. I'm obviously deferring to your judgment, as that. I was like, okay, that's, he's running the loan players. He played in the Premier League. I did neither of the two. So it was interesting to hear what he thought Billy Gilmore's best position was.
I've had the exact same thoughts as well, like as what you have. Like, I'm like, where's he best?
So I obviously was very deferential to his opinion because he certainly knows more than I'm knowledgeable and stuff, but I never played soccer at any level. My son played 1 year, so I don't have any experience as opposed to baseball. All right, I played a lot of youth baseball. I understand that. That's the only sport that I've ever coached. I'm not going to step into anything. Mark coaches anything and everything that Texas plays. I expect you to, water polo or something. If you guys had a pool, you'd be the water polo coach or something.
Yeah.
Except Mark's kids would probably have the what is it? The stereotypical dumb question: do the horses swim?
Yeah, exactly.
So I think one other little insight that I think I probably have better than most would be into like the players from the under 23s, because I do watch all their games, so I'm able to watch them online. So I think if you are interested in like who could be the next ones coming through,
absolutely, please.
I think Tom Dixon-Peters, who's striker. I think he's spending some time. I think they've said that he's spending some time with the first team at the moment. Tom signed to the under 18s at the same time that Jonathan did. I think Tom's actually maybe a little bit younger. He's been having a really good year, scoring a lot of goals.
Did he get a hat trick recently?
He did. I mean, like him and John Rowe have been scoring so many goals and hat tricks and crazy things. Like, they're on fire. So Tom is a really kind of silky forward. Like he really connects things well. So he connects play, and I think he always did that. But I think he's got better on his pressing. So he now he does a much better group press of the opposition defense. So that's improved a lot with him. And then he's just become really calm and kind of clinical in front of goal. Lots of lovely chipped goals and stuff. So you can see the progress with him, and I think he's definitely one to keep an eye on. I think the other one who's really tearing it up right now as a forward at the moment is John Rowe. He's more of a winger.
How's his last name spelled?
Rowe.
Yeah, like Mike. I think he got both goals today against Derby.
He did. And
yeah. Okay.
He is a smaller player. Will just run right at you, and he's exciting because he's got those fast feet and can just run with the ball. He just is tearing it up. Like he's running at people. He's finishing stuff. He's making better runs now. Like he's just getting better and better.
Well, those are all promising attributes that the team currently is lacking.
Yeah. Those two are really standing out. I think you got Liam Gibbs, who they got from my old team, and he is. If you talk to the boys, like they really speak highly of his vision, his passing. Like he just kind of sees things that others don't see in the midfield. And I think you got Regan Riley, who's had a few injury problems, but you're starting to see with him why they signed him from Bolton. There's definitely some talent there, and then you've got ones your ones we shouldn't forget about, like Dan Adshead's out at Gillingham at the moment. I don't know. I haven't seen so much of Dan, but he's a technically quality player. You got Tyrese Omotoy, who he's been out on loan like a long time. I think it was Swindon and now Leyton Orient.
I think both of those players have gotten time in the first team in some of the cup matches.
Yeah,
I've definitely seen both of them play.
Yeah. So, but I'm most up to speed with those ones that are currently still in the 23s. But the ones I mentioned are, they're looking good. So you just don't know, with Jonathan and all these guys, which ones are going to be the ones that make that final kind of push to the first team, or
Well, my view, Jonathan as the captain, he had a bit of a leg up on them. Also, he's filling a position of need. Yeah, the center, there's a bit of injury issues. Like, hey, this guy's doing really well. He's the captain. Let's bring. It just worked out. The situation worked out to his favor, and he'll have at least one more. And if the injury continues as it is, he might also be on the travel squad.
He's got 2-header goals this year.
Yeah,
and a third off his foot.
Well, again, he's got Liam Gibbs to thank for that, because Liam can really deliver the ball, and he was able to get on the end of it. So, he's always complaining that the ball never comes anywhere near me on set pieces, but Liam was delivering it right where it needed to be. So
interesting. So is he the tallest player on the under 23s?
It's a good question. Jaden, who he plays with at the back, is about the same height. I'm not sure if he's taller than Jonathan or not. They're very similar. They look very similar as well.
Is he the one with the big hair?
No, he's got.
Let me try to think of who I'm thinking of here.
You're thinking probably of Abu Kamara.
Okay.
Yeah, Abu's tall as well, but not quite as tall as Jonathan or Jaden.
Yeah. So the guy that I mentioned, Donovan Pines, when he was in Maryland, he's 6'7". So he was always heading stuff away on the free kicks, the corner. It seemed like he got all of them, because when you're 6'7",
well,
that helps.
That's something that Jonathan's worked on. Like modern centre back doesn't actually head the ball very much in academies. The academy football is played on the ground, and actually the Solar team that he played on, that was a US academy team, and they played on the ground. So, you don't get so much experience of those heading situations, and it was something that he had to work on. And he actually had, a little bit of difficulty with those big headers, reading the flight and so on. He got a little bit kind of uncertain of what he needed to do, and so that he got a little bit of advice specifically on that from the agency that he signed with. Like, he can get some help from Anton Ferdinand, who played at the highest levels, and so he just kind of walked him through one or two things on don't worry about the opponent, pick up the flight of the ball first and foremost, and once you know where the flight of the ball is, then worry about the opponent, and that just transformed his heading just overnight. So to be able to lean on people like that is for information, and it's like I said, it's a mental game. It's not so much what they're telling you about maybe technical things like that. Later on, it's like how you deal with, a crowd that maybe is a little against you, and like every time you make a mistake, they just let out groans or something. Like, how do you block that out? Those kind of things later on in your career, right? These guys have been there, done it all. It's good to have them in your corner.
Excellent. That's really interesting to know. I think Jackie mentioned a little bit about that the agency was helping him with some coaching.
Yeah, they've got some. There's Anton Ferdinand, there's Rio Ferdinand, there's Ashley Williams, who played for many years. They got a lot of ex-players around who you can talk to, right? And like I said, it's not necessarily about little technical details. It's about more how you deal with situations, how you deal with a dressing room. Like who knows what problems can come up in the dressing room, and have someone who can, who's seen these things before, can help you out. Yeah. If you're a captain having to deal with a problem player in your dressing room, right? Kind of nice to have a captain, a former captain, tell you like what they think.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Mum and dad can only do so much, right?
True. True.
And,
that reminds me. During one of the, what was it, the Canaries Trust Forum or one of the Norwich forums, Jeremy Goss was on, and he was talking about how when he came up, that the veteran players basically hazed him and made it horrible for him in the locker room, and that he just dreaded being in the locker room. He enjoyed being out on the pitch, but he dreaded how he was treated and realized that this is something he never wanted to do. He says it was just horrible, the bullying and the hazing. He said it really made it very hard for him to be part of the team because they were just giving him so much crap all the time.
Wow. Well, I can tell you the hazing has changed considerably then at Norwich. Jonathan, when he was with the first team in pre-season, got, I guess, the closest thing to hazed. He had, I forget where they were. They were, on the road somewhere. And he had to stand, I think, on his chair and sing for the first team.
Well, that happens all over the place. But it's like, but it's not like, rookie, what do you, American, I get some, or whatever, But Jeremy Goss basically gave the impression that they were just constantly, hazing and bullying, and how awful that was. It was like, he says it was hard for him mentally to get over that hub. And then when he became a senior player, he says, we're just not going to do this because this is horrible. And, it's glad to know that, the club does. I wouldn't expect Norwich to stand for any of that. I would tend to think if some of that would happen, they would stop it immediately.
Yeah, no, I think the world has changed a lot. I think football's changed a lot. You still got to be mentally very, very strong, but in different ways now. But that was pretty painful for Jonathan. He's not much of a singer.
Not much of a singer. I don't know. Mark, did I tell you that where I sang a cappella for 10 seconds? Did I tell you that?
No. I'm dreading.
I have proof of this too. I have photographic proof after the fact, and I have proof with an article on top of the Washington Nationals dugout.
Really?
Yeah. There was 30,000 people. I won't go into the details.
Oh my!
A whole lot, but it was a PlayStation challenge. So it was. It's too long to get into the details. But myself and then younger guy, he had to be, I don't know, 14, 15 at the time. We sang 10 seconds a cappella of U2's Beautiful Day, and then the crowd determined by their cheering who they thought won. So I won and came home with a PlayStation 2.
All right.
Yeah. So I've sang in front of 30,000. It was basically, it was like 30,000. It was like 30,000 and change.
Yeah.
At the ballpark.
You must have some pipes.
Not really. I was just able to do it in 10 seconds. I don't have pipes. I can do a lot of cartoon character voices and stuff. I can do dead on impersonations of that. What was interesting is that I didn't know that there was an article, because there's an article written in the Washington Post. So this is on a Saturday, and then that next Sunday, an article showed up in the Washington Post. And then when I got into work that Monday, people were calling me and emailing me, "Hey, Ken, I saw you in the Washington Post this weekend, on Sunday. It's a nice article." Says, "What are you talking about?" Says, "You were, it was you singing at the Nationals ballpark for the PlayStation." I'm like, "There's an article?" I'm like, "Are you kidding?"
Yeah.
So yeah, there's I have it somewhere. I have to, because it's still online, but the pictures weren't there. So yeah, and then people who were at the ball game took pictures of myself on the big screen. It's kind of like, "Oh, that's a great picture someone took of you." I told my mom, and says, "No, Mom, that's the picture of the scoreboard. Look at the bottom of the screen. Those are humans. That's real size humans. Those are." And so I was on the gigantic screen at the scoreboard. It says, "Those people, those are humans down there."
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my one claim to fame. So I was like, I only perform unless I get 30,000 people, and that's why I was like.
I'll tell you one funny thing for us is, my family still, they live in East Anglia. They are actually, my parents are actually farmers. They were dairy farmers. They now do a little bit of beef. They should be retired. They're semi-retired, but they're still doing some beef and stuff. And my dad's name is Jonathan Tomkinson. So they fairly frequently now get people say to them, because they're just, a couple of 75-year-old white farmers from Suffolk, that don't really look anything much like Jonathan Tomkinson, the mixed race footballer from Norwich. But so they get questions like, "Are you, Jonathan Tomkinson? Are you related to Jonathan Tomkinson, the footballer?" And that just makes their day now.
Like, yes, that's my grandson.
Yeah, exactly. But people they really struggle with that connection. Like these, there's not many Tomkinsons around, and so yeah, that's pretty funny. People in the agriculture world saying like, "Are you related to that footballer?" So,
like, absolutely, yes, we are.
Yeah. Yep. And now my dad is gone from being not really interested in football at all to like Norwich's biggest fan. So they've converted another one of us. So
that will happen. It's always funny when let's say someone in sports here grows up and is a fan of the local team, and then they wind up playing for another team. It's all of a sudden, "Oh, I always grew up rooting," like Mark's from the Kansas City area, so it's like, "Oh, I always grew up in Kansas City, and X, Y, and Z." So if, let's say, one of his kids all of a sudden played for another team, well, then he's a huge fan of that other team, while he still is really a lifelong fan of the Kansas City teams.
Do you know what team Jonathan's a fan of?
Which sport?
Football, soccer.
Is it one of the big six?
Yep. Do you know, Mark?
Is it who they play Saturday?
Told me this. I don't know that you've ever said.
Yeah.
Who?
It's only Manchester United.
Oh no. That would have been good.
That's who I rooted for. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
I don't think that made it onto Arlo's research sheet.
No, that's a private one.
Yeah. Well, you asked me when I first started, figure out who I wanted to root for. I'm like, I don't want to root for any of the big teams. To me, Manchester United is like rooting for the Yankees.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that's the biggest team. Like, oh, La Liga. Well, clearly it's going to be Real Madrid or Barcelona. There doesn't seem to be a lot of fun in doing that. So there's teams in other leagues. There's other teams that I root for that aren't like the top 2 or 3 teams. Although in La Liga, I do like Atletico Madrid. I like them, but it's I follow what's going on in certain teams. But just to be a bandwagoner and just go, oh yeah, I know them. Like the people all around the world with the Yankee hats. I'm like, come on, really? Let's just.
I think for him, we were always watching Premier League on NBC when he was young, and so Manchester United was just so good back then. He was really into the whole Wayne Rooney, Ferguson. I think it's kind of sad. I think Ronaldo was probably gone by the time he started watching, and now he's back again. But so, he just got kind of hooked into Manchester United, and now he's had to kind of suffer through all these up and down years that they've had, with David Moyes, Mourinho, Van Gaal, so now he's seeing the pain of the average, maybe not awful pain, but the pain of the average football fan that, you can't always be at the top.
It is kind of weird when professional athletes play for a different team than the team that they grew up rooting for. You still get the sense that I would like that team to do well, but not necessarily at the expense of the team that pays me.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
And Mark and Jeff, the others know I also follow Tottenham. So when Norwich played Tottenham, and Jeff's like, "Oh, are you torn?" Says, "Oh no, I root for Norwich, all the time. Like Tottenham doesn't need, the win against Norwich to survive. Norwich needs to beat Tottenham, to survive. So it's not, any sort of thing. Same thing as a Maryland grad. I also have a master's degree from Johns Hopkins. So Maryland and Johns Hopkins, Master Science of Business. So when Maryland Hopkins, basically the only sport they ever play at the same level was lacrosse. Lacrosse. So when Maryland and Hopkins play each other, which is every year, I'm always rooting for Maryland. And I root for Hopkins, the rest of the time. So, when you spend 5 years, on campus in Maryland getting the engineering degree versus the 1 year doing school at night and the weekends for Hopkins, there's I have far more Maryland items than Hopkins items around this. I have my degree. I don't have anything in this. I have a couple things upstairs, in my bedroom, but nothing is here, but it's the same sort of thing. So like, who do I root for? All right, we're almost at 123. So let's see if we can wrap this up.
I don't want to break Jackie's record.
Well, we had a special Thanksgiving stuff too. That was there. We're not trying to break Jackie's record. It's just you provided really, really great insights that I didn't know, and I would assume some of the people who are listening don't know how the whole academy structure works and the experience of a parent of an academy player. And it's really interesting information. It's one of the reasons I want to have you on, especially because like he was mentioned on the broadcast twice. I'm like, awesome.
I think an observation for me is with Norwich fans don't seem to pay that much interest or not attention to the academy, which I find really, really interesting because Norwich is they're committed to the academy and they see the academy is how they're going to produce players for the first team. So I think it's just interesting to me that a lot of fans don't seem to pay much attention. there's a good Instagram account. I think it's Norwich Youth, I think they're called, or something like that, that doing a really good job, kind of covering the academy right now, because that's where your future players are coming from. They're not all going to be transferred in, so. Some clubs, the fans are absolutely nuts about the academy. And FC Dallas, they are, but it's a little surprised that the fans are not maybe quite so tuned into Norwich's academy.
So not tuned in social media wise, or not tuned in versus as opposed to showing up at the matches. Is it both?
No, they're pretty good for showing up for like a FA Youth Cup and stuff. But in terms of like social media and when players do start to make that transition from the academy to the first team, there's an awful lot of like, who is this? We've never heard of them. It's like, well, actually,
gotcha. Okay.
If you're paying any attention to the academy, you'd know that, so Jonathan's popped out kind of the academy and in pre-season and then now. And, if you're paying attention, you'd know Tom Dixon Peters, like, he's been scoring goals and,
I've even seen that,
looking good. And so I think, there's a lot of interesting stuff going on in the academy.
Yeah. That's an interesting perspective, because I always got the sense that they really were knowledgeable of what was going on, and they take pride in the fact, that's an academy player. We brought him up, whatever. But
I think they wait until they're installed in the first team. Like with Andrew. I mean, there was a lot of like Andrew, and it's like, if you pay a little attention to the Pinkin articles or whatever it is, it's like, or follow the academy on Twitter, you'll get a feel for what's going on.
Actually, guys, I have a article I still haven't read. Who wrote this? Michael Bailey, December 9th. It says, it's on the Athletic. Norwich City's academy, tough times and a search for bright future. I have it up, because I still haven't read it. That's why I was able. It's one of those things, and I didn't.
Yeah, Michael Bailey's always a good read, and it's and to be,
I'm just gonna scan this real quick just to see if Jonathan's mentioned. Because I have not read this.
Read it. I think he is right now near the end or something.
Here you go. Tom Dixon Peters, Kamara, Jonathan Rowe. Oh, here we go. Mentioning that he signed a new contract.
Yeah, I mean, it's to me, it's always exciting to see, who might be the next one to come through.
Absolutely, that's a very good point that you made. That you tend to think they would spend more time. As the corollary, I used this before as an Orioles fan. Our first team isn't that good. Our minor league system's rated the best in the majors. So we're paying a lot of attention to the guys who are coming up and following what's going on, how they're doing. There's a lot of media coverage. There are Twitter accounts focused solely on what's going on. And they got so much more attention than they've had in the past, because like, okay, you drafted all these guys. They're all doing well. We want to see them. We want to see the videos. We want to, so people going to the minor league teams. I mean, I went to 2 minor league games this year. One was specifically, it was like, oh, the Orioles aren't playing. Let's go on a Thursday night and see them play. That was not far away. And then we took in August, we went down to Ocean City, Maryland's Eastern Shore, and the Delmarva Shorebirds, who are like the low A level. That's like 4 levels below the major league team. Saw them play. When we were there, it was the second day that all the draftees had played. So basically, all the hot young prospects, the guys they had just played the night before, they beat the team. They scored like 17 or 18 runs or something like that. So people are now showing up and following at a much lower level because the major league team is so bad, and that, oh, this guy's good. So there's far more attention being paid than ever on the guys in the minor leagues, knowing who do we think really is going to shine, who do we think is going to help us be competitive, be a championship team. So it's more than any other time. Every once in a while, like, oh yeah, this guy's a stud. We know what's going on. People are specifically showing up. There was a guy named Grayson Rodriguez. He's like the number one pitching prospect. So we have like number one hitting prospect, pitching prospect. So because he throws the ball so fast, they basically says, okay, he's like going to gas it up. So they allowed people to bring the portable gas cans. Like, oh, I ran out of gas. I have to buy one of these to fill up my car. So they said you can bring in brand new, empty gas cans, and then they had a decorating contest. So all that stuff, there was so much more attention paid. That because they know he's going to be in the major league team. They know he's going to be good.
There's something magical about seeing a player before he makes it big,
Yeah, but there is. I mean, it's just like, hey, I saw this guy or that guy. Like, because when I was there, when I saw the game, two of the players, so they brought up all the guys who were there, but the guy who was their number one draft pick was there, and then the guy who was previous, like their second round draft pick, was there, and the guy he played third, he's notable because he attended Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. That was the Parkland school. Yeah, he was a Parkland kid, and he's a lot of power. So seeing them in person, what was going on. So it was just like there's so much more attention being paid at the lower levels because
the one thing you have to be careful about is to not overhype the young players.
Right.
I don't like them getting overhyped. I don't like too much attention showered onto them. But to me, I really enjoy seeing the progress of young players and kind of trying to figure out like who's got something special, So
yeah, it's nice. Like whenever somebody is introduced, at least on NBC or whatever, the announcers always really know what's going on, and they're always very positive about it. Oh, and making his Premier League debut, 18-year-old, whatever, 18-year-old Mark Foster or whatever, and Mark, or whatever, and they'll have information on it. They're like, he's making, and this person, blah, blah, blah. So they always, when the guy comes on, they don't just go, oh, here's the sub. It's like, oh, this kid's an academy product. This is what we know about him. He's a young, exciting player. They're always trying to call attention to someone that's being introduced that they think maybe this kid is going to be, part of the team. He might be a future star. So I think they do a really good job. And I'm assuming they also do it in all the other channels and that they do the same thing. But I'm not watching the BBC feed or your Sky or whatever. We can't get it here.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I know they mentioned him on like they go through the bench on Sky. So they mentioned 19-year-old American centre back, I think, but I don't know that they talked about him in the game. I'm not sure.
Yeah, Jeff said that Chris Gorham mentioned, like when Grant Hanley went down, he mentioned him. And Mark, didn't you say there was someone that has a local program that mentioned?
Oh yeah, Peter Welton mentioned him, David, on the kick around this weekend. They didn't have a live show. They're not going to have live shows because they're committed to like bowl games and other stuff. So they're probably not going to have a live show on Saturdays for a while. But he did do a pod with Andy this weekend, and he did mention him.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because Jonathan's always been good at kind of flying under the radar. now it's time to kind of come out from under the radar, I think. So.
Right. Well, Andy and Peter are very much aware of him here locally.
Yeah.
Well, honestly,
Okay.
it'd be nice to see him come in for maybe the last 10 minutes tomorrow to secure the win or something.
There you go.
Like, hey, we're up by a goal. Let's bring on another defender. That would be great.
Yep.
If that's the situation, that he comes on, that would be outstanding.
Yeah. As long as we get 3 points, that's what counts.
True.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's wrap it up here. Thank you so much, David. This has been outstanding.
All right. Enjoyed it.
Your wife did have another half an hour, but that's fine. Well, I don't know. We'll have you on for holiday themed or something. If we asked her, it was like, one of the questions was on the Charlie Brown Thanksgiving special. What's your favorite of the foods the Charlie Brown that they serve for Thanksgiving? Mm-hmm. Which of the four did you like the best?
I don't know if I have an answer for that one.
Well, it's toast, popcorn, jelly beans, and pretzel sticks.
I think
you have to know the episode.
Toast for me, I think.
Have you ever seen the episode, the Charlie Brown?
No, I don't think I have.
Okay, so it's basically because the Peanuts and Charlie Brown, it's all the kids. So they get into a situation where Charlie Brown and the other kids decide, or like, oh wow, we're gonna have to try to put together a Thanksgiving meal for our friends during the daytime. What is it that we can make? Well, we know how to make toast and popcorn. We have jelly beans, and so that's basically what they serve because that's all they know how to make.
Knowing Jackie, I'm pretty sure it would have been popcorn.
It was popcorn.
Yeah. Okay.
It was I chose popcorn because popcorn of the four, popcorn was the only food that possibly existed at the time of the first Thanksgiving. Corn existed, so you could have heated up the corn. I don't think jelly beans existed. Toast. There's no electricity. How are you going to make the toast? And
the old-fashioned way over the fire.
Yeah. Well, it's so I went but she did choose popcorn. You chose jelly beans, right, Mark?
Yeah, I want jelly beans.
Yeah, just ask her to pull it up. I'm sure it's available. So it's fun.
Yeah, fishing it out of a 2-hour feed is. We were swerving all over the place in that 2 hours.
But it was great. She's a lot of good information. So thank you very much, David, for all the good information and insights. I've learned a lot. I think Mark has learned a lot, and hopefully all our listeners have learned a lot. And we'll love to have you come back on in the future. We're trying to have as many people come on. I thought this is perfect. Jonathan was on the first. He was on the team. He was mentioned. Let's hear from his dad.
Hopefully, we'll have a new milestone to come back and celebrate. Right? So,
absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. Yep. That would be outstanding.
Yeah.
Okay. So, thank you very much. And everybody, thank you for listening. And let's hope we get some 3 points.
Yep. Here's for 3 tomorrow.
Yep.
All right.
Okay.